We're back! As always, I'm excited you've chosen to join me for another episode of More Than You Can Chew, and I hope that you brought your analytics appetite because we're going to dive into a really important topic today, and I don't think anyone could conceive of a better guest to talk about SEO reporting than my guest, Dana DiTomaso. She is the founder and lead instructor at KP Playbook. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, and it's almost yelling at football player time again.
It's almost that time, so Let's get excited. So as someone in SEO, I'm truly humbled that you've come to be on a guest here. And if you didn't know, Dana, search has been in sort of flux, right? But seriously, there's a lot of noise out there. Good advice, probably more bad advice.
Yeah, I think the bad advice comes from people don't know and they're just trying to grab onto something. It's like, let's try this. But it's like, no one really knows at this point, I think, all the answers. So just, you're okay. We're okay.
We're okay, right? There's no need for panic, right?
Yeah.
The nuances of what we're doing need to change. And, some of the tactics and strategies people are adding into their work or changing in their work. Some of them maybe should have done quite some time ago, but right, we're evolving, and that's why we're having these conversations to make sure we grow together. And one of the biggest sticking points for a lot of us, including me, is where this is all heading with performance, right? Deprecation of traffic via zero-click search through AI overviews, AI mode, other LLMs. We used to talk about, not focusing on non-branded traffic, and we talk about more traffic. So let's take off a bite more than we can chew in this episode. And Dana, if you would, I know you've been talking about this a lot. And so please break down how SEOs need to change up reporting in the face of search transition to AI search results.
Yeah, it's funny. Last year at MozCon, I talked about how reporting was getting inaccurate. And that talk was called It's Not Right, But It's Okay, Future of Analytics. And I feel like it might have been a little predicting the future in a way, because part of it was that we definitely need to change up the way that we report, because for a long time, and I used to be an SEO. I worked in the field for 25 years. Traffic equaled results, right? For a very long time. You got more SEO traffic, therefore you got more results, and therefore you got paid. And I think now, because SEOs have relied on this for so long, it is really difficult to upend 20 plus years of this is how we do results, and instead focusing on things like impressions. And so one of the things that I talked about at MozCon last year was the idea of introducing what I call an effectiveness metric, which is where you take all of your impressions from all of your different channels, Google search, Google ads, everywhere else, number of people on your email list. Those are the people who are aware of you in some way. And then you divide it by the number of ultimately, what makes you money, in-store transactions, online transactions, whatever, you decide is like our main metric. And that could just be key events in GA4. It doesn't matter, but we're not looking at attribution. We're just looking at the inputs of impressions and the output of money. And then we're looking at a percentage of those two. And then over time, did the percentage go up or did it stay flat? If it went up, that means we're being more effective. If it stayed flat, we're being just as effective. If it went down, then something that you did is less effective. Because part of what's broken in analytics is attribution. People have ad blockers. People do all sorts of crazy stuff before they convert. And I don't think we can rely on attribution directly anymore. And I come from this too, also having a lot of years in local SEO where we lost the ability to attribute forever ago, right? Like, sure, we can put a call tracking number on that Google business listing. We can put UTMs in there, but people are doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, I had to contact a pest control company for my house. I did all the Google searching, and then to book the appointment, my wife was going to be home, not me. So I sent her the link and I said, here, book an appointment. That was sent via text message. That appointment booking shows up as direct, even though I did all this organic research, right? So that's just this is how people use the internet. So I think really trying to get away from the idea of if it isn't attributed, it doesn't count. And instead thinking, how does the work that I'm doing influence the bigger picture for my company or my client's company? And I think that's where introducing something like effectiveness is good, because it's also just one number. It's on a graph. You don't need to worry about the individual little numbers fluctuating up and down. We're not looking at, traffic is up 28.62% as opposed to 28.60%. It's not that part doesn't matter. And I think that this is where, when you're looking at it directionally, that's a great directional metric to start to introduce to clients. So I do have a post on my website. It's called marketing analytics is broken. Can it be fixed? No. Spoiler alert, it cannot be fixed. And so this is where, really we're thinking about what are we going to report on instead? And the other thing that's going on too, on top of this, is this idea of the great decoupling is what people are calling it in Search Console, or it's turning into the alligator, right? Where you've got impressions and clicks. And so again, if your impressions are going up and your resulting conversions or whatever that final metric is not going up, then your marketing is less effective. And now is a really great time to take a look at that and be like, okay, so we got all these impressions, but people aren't calling us or giving us money. What are we doing wrong? And then that gives you a starting point to dig in and figure out where you can fix the gaps in your AI strategy.
Great. I love that. Now, when we talk about, people relying on Google Analytics, right? Trying to follow along with where traffic's coming from. What are some tips or insights on what we can track in GA4?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can track someone, track the heck out of them. One of the things that I see a lot of people do a really good job of is tracking, did people convert? That's something that most people are familiar with. They know if a form was filled or a purchase happened. We got that part. But what they don't track is someone didn't convert. What did we do wrong? So sometimes, for example, for some clients, I'll introduce an event into GA4 where it's could they even see the CTA button? Sometimes it's as simple as that. Because especially if you look at mobile devices, if your client has a lot of mobile, and I've said this for years, if your client has more than half mobile, you need to make sure to look at that site on a mobile device at least half the time you're working with them, right? Stop using your giant, I have 2 monitors here right now. I am not most people, right? Most people are on a phone or they're on a tiny little laptop. And so really it's a matter of putting yourself in that client's shoes. Could you even see the ability to convert? Because if you couldn't see it, then it's not really realistic for us to expect that this person could convert. And then the other thing too that I think people really should be using are audiences in GA4. If there's something that you can tell that this person is probably not going to buy something, maybe you're a home builder and people don't buy a house every week. So is there a way that you can say people coming to the website who come onto the website to submit, say, a service request, like a post-build service request, I'm not going to include those people in my conversion rate calculations because they already bought a house. I don't need to worry about them. Is there a way that you can start to build audiences based on your personas? So this person visited this page, and this is this audience that I really want to get into, as opposed to just a site-wide conversion rate, which frankly is kind of useless in a lot of cases because you really only want to target the people who actually have intent. Maybe the percentage of people who have intent will go up and down over time, but that's one of the things to look at is how many people on our website actually show purchase intent. And then out of those people who show purchase intent, how many of them actually became leads or customers or what have you. And I think that that's also a different way of looking at the analytics. Just track the heck out of what you can track.
Yeah. Are there certain, people, I've talked to prospects, they're worried about bounce rate and things like that. Are there certain things right, not one size fits all, right? I mean, are there certain things that you feel people still sort of apply a false positive or false negative towards it? There's a little more nuance.
Yeah, I feel that this is my heart every time someone says bounce rate. So I've got this little dumpster fire right on my shelf. But this is bounce rate right here. So the thing is with bounce rate in Universal Analytics, it measures something completely different than bounce rate in GA4. They should not even be named the same thing. They are not even measuring the same thing. What it is measuring in bounce rate in GA4 is the inverse of engagement rate. Engagement rate is already on most reports. Don't bother with bounce rate. Just look at engagement rate. A session on your website becomes engaged when one of these things happens. Someone spends at least 10 seconds, that's the default, you can up it to 60, with your tab as their active tab in their browser. So this helps with all those tab hoarders, people who have 40 tabs open for years and months, right? And then, or they visit 2 pages, or they convert. That is how a session becomes engaged. So one of the easiest things you can do, especially with paid, is grab a report, change look at the traffic acquisition report, for example, use that first drop down to change the dimension to be, say, session campaign, and then look at the engagement rates by campaign. Is there a campaign where the engagement rate is significantly lower than the site average? Or overall, is there a channel that's significantly lower than the site average? So for example, if you're running a display campaign and your engagement rate for your website is 70% overall, but this particular display campaign, the engagement rate is 30%, that's a crappy campaign. You are wasting money on bringing people to that site because there's something wrong and they're not engaging. Maybe it's a bad landing page, or maybe it's just bot traffic. You don't know. So that is where engagement rate can be a really good metric, but that is what it is measuring. It is not measuring, so if I read an entire page say in Universal Analytics with bounce rate, if you spent 10 minutes on a page reading the whole page, maybe you got in touch, but you didn't go to a second page, that would count as a bounce. It didn't matter. In GA4, if I spent 10 minutes reading a page, that would be an engaged session. So again, like this is where really thinking about the differences between the two tools, it's so much easier if you don't think of GA4 as an upgrade from Universal Analytics. It is a brand new product. Google should never have used the migrate language for it. I think it was deeply confusing for a lot of people. It's a brand new bag. And so just if you forget everything you ever learned about Universal Analytics, you're going to have such a better time in GA4.
And I kind of took you, thank you for that. I kind of took you off a tangent off of AI search, but lastly, sort of just want to sort of pick your brain on in the same vein of AI search. So we talked about the great decoupling. Are there things people should be watching for like, does it make sense with AI search to look for more branded traffic in GSC? Does it make more sense for more direct traffic to be tracked in GA4? What are some of the primary things that you would suggest looking for in addition to increase in impressions commensurate, like not one-to-one increase in conversions, but you see that? What are some other indicators that you would see as indicative of at least some progress in visibility with AI search?
Absolutely. So some AI overview searches, as well as people also ask in featured snippets, when they come to your website, you've probably seen this. You have this like tilde text equals colon thing that shows up in your URL. I have a recipe on my website for Google Tag Manager that will capture that information because it's not captured by default in GA4. You need to do additional work to get that. And then you can see that someone came to your website via what I call a snippet. And then that is really interesting because then you can track the landing pages that have those snippets and then compare that with your landing pages in Google Search Console and then see, okay, so this particular landing page, when it comes up, has a really high impression rate, for example. So I think that this landing page, here's the queries for it. Which of these do I think is bringing up an AI overview? And then that can help you start to look at it. And what I say to people all the time is like, yeah, you can use rank tracking tools, but just do the search. Just do a search for something and then see what the results look like. Search incognito, of course, and then see what it looks like. Do you have to do more video? Do you have to do more images? Like, what does Google want from you? Or are you just coming up multiple times in these AI searches? It almost feels like we're going back to like ye olden days of marketing where they'd say, you need to see the brand 17 times before someone's going to convert with you. Well, guess what? We're in the point where they have to see you come up in AI overview 17 times before they're like, oh, I guess this company knows what they're talking about. I'm going to get in touch with them. So branding becomes even more important than it used to be, and that final conversion might be via a branded search. So, they'll search for all these different articles. They're like, oh, you know what? Dana really knows what she's doing when it comes to analytics. I'm just going to search for her name. We get a lot of weird spellings with my name in Google Search Console because people can't spell the last name. Google figures it out anyway. And then they come to the website and they might convert because of that. Whatever. I don't care. As long as I got there eventually. I don't really, it's important to know the kinds of different ways that people search before they got to that point. But I think we need to get less obsessed with like, oh, this person converted via brand, therefore it's not valuable. Brand is even more valuable than it used to be. Absolutely. Cool. Looking at that percentage of branded versus non-branded, I still look at it, but what I want to see is that percentage of branded going up over time.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that perspective as well. We have a couple of bites we took off more than we could chew around AI search reporting and sort of what to monitor and, different aspects that, of course, as I tell everyone, like, don't look at anything in a silo, right? We want to get the whole picture to really tell the true data story of what's happening. So, Dana, thanks so much for those insights around this topic. Before I let you go, I have probably the most difficult question anyone's going to ask you on any podcast ever. And that is, as I know you're well-traveled, Dana, whether it's in your hometown or somewhere you've been, what is a place you would go, look, if you're in this town, this restaurant is somewhere you just got to check out?
Well, I actually have two places. I hope that's okay. So my new adopted hometown is Victoria, British Columbia. It's where I live now. And there is a local taco chain called TacoFino, which is named after Tofino, which is a surfing town here on Vancouver Island. And they make the best fish tacos. So you got to check them out. And then, good fish tacos for Canada. I just came back from Texas. Canada, Mexican food is a little step down from like what you get in like Texas. But anyway, the other place is my hometown, where I was born, Hamilton, Ontario, which is a very heavy Italian population. And there's this hole-in-the-wall restaurant in a basement by the hospital in Hamilton. It's called Bronzie's Place. And there's some Italian nonna in the back making pasta. On Fridays, they have this fantastic squid shrimp dish, which is just like what my family eats at Christmas. I love it so much. And they give you this like really mediocre salad of like a piece of tomato and two, little bits of lettuce. And if you don't eat it, they give you shit. And the tables are held together with duct tape. And there's always three old Italian guys at the bar watching soccer, drinking Peroni. And it is my absolute favorite comfort food. It's delightful. So yeah, if you're ever in Hamilton, Ontario, check out Bronzie's place. It's going to look like it's not much, but it's pretty good.
That description makes you want to go there just for Bronzie's place. And it's awesome. Great recommendations. Thank you for those insights. And as always, again, Dana, thank you so much for carving out time for More Than You Can Chew.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone, I'll see you on the next podcast of More Than You Can Chew.